You're listening to Together by AGCI. I'm Melissa Rush. Today we're chatting with AGCI adoptive parents Lisa and Nick. Nick and Lisa adopted their adorable son William from Colombia earlier this year, and their beautiful story is absolutely inspiring. If this story tugs on your heart, this is the perfect time to begin your adoption journey. This November, we're celebrating Adoption Month at AGCI with a $500 adoption grant. These grants are available for families who complete an application for one of AGCI's international adoption programs by 11/30 and go under contract by 12/31. I can't wait for you to be inspired by Nick and Lisa's journey. Let's get into our conversation. Well, we are so excited to have Nick and Lisa on the podcast. They are an incredible AGCI adoptive family, and we're so honored that they're willing to share their story with us today in honor of National Adoption Month. So welcome, Nick and Lisa.
Thank you.
Thank you guys so much for making the time to chat with us. So I'm hoping that you can just start at the very beginning. Why did you guys decide to adopt?
Yeah, I can start off. It was something, I think that I had in the back burner from years ago. I did missionary work years ago in Laos in Southeast Asia, and was primarily working with university students, but also just a lot of kids in the neighborhood and village. And, that kind of, I think God kind of sparked something in me then. But then, like I said, it was on the back burner and life and ups and downs and everything like that. And then 5 years ago, I married this lovely lady, and we started thinking about expanding our family and what that might look like. And I'll let you take over from there.
Yeah. So I think just through a lot of conversations that we had and a lot of prayer, and just really careful consideration of what the process would be like and what it would mean to adopt internationally, I think we decided to jump in feet first. I think we just felt like this is what we should be doing. We looked at a bunch of different programs, different agencies. Different countries. Yeah, we loved our conversations with AGCI, and specifically, we really loved the Colombia program and just the child focus that Colombia puts on their adoption program. So. I guess it was December of 2019 that we decided to really jump in feet first. And it's been an amazing experience for us.
Yeah, I'm so glad to hear that. So did you guys always think, Nick, given your missionary experience, that you wanted to go international, or what was the conversation like with that?
That was definitely my heart. I was like, if I'm not going to have a biological child of my own, then adopting internationally was kind of what I wanted. But I think we did go ahead and kind of take a step back and just be like, okay, let's evaluate the options. And I have a lot of respect for people who do foster to adopt, but we were like, I couldn't do that. That's and then newborn infant adoption domestically. It just seemed like there wasn't necessarily quite the need for that surrounded other types of adoption. So it kind of pushed us back. It made sense to look into international adoption. And then, I don't know.
Yeah, I was just going to add to that. I think when we looked at the international programs, we just felt that if there aren't families there to adopt these children, they probably won't be adopted, and they probably will go through the system. Our thought was perhaps here stateside, these infants and these babies will have that opportunity. There's lots of families that want these children. There's waiting lists, and there's a lot of desire for that. Whereas internationally, our perception is possibly there aren't those families lined up for those infants or those children. So I think that's really what pushed us towards, or kind of inspired us towards going adopting internationally.
Yeah, I'm so glad you brought that up, because all of the kids that we place with families through AGCI, international adoption is kind of the last stop on the train. They have tried to find domestic families. They've tried to reunify if possible. They've tried all those other options. And so unfortunately that is true, that if those kids who are waiting and eligible for to be internationally adopted at this point in time, if they're not adopted, that, that's the end of the line. So, which is heartbreaking. Can you share what stuck out to you about AGCI? Why did you decide to move forward?
I think we felt, and I can kick this one off, I think we just felt very comfortable with the woman, and forgive me, I can't remember who we spoke with the first time, but we just felt very comfortable with her. There was it wasn't pushy. We weren't, followed up with phone calls and mail and emails, afterwards. There was follow-up, but it just didn't feel pushy. It felt like she wanted us to make the best decision for our family and gave us the space and consideration to do that. So we just felt very comfortable with the conversations that we were having. Again, we really fell in love with the Colombia program and the child first focus that Colombia really has.
I think the Colombia kind of went hand in hand with All God's Children, because we were kind of exploring other opportunities. And I think that, we also had friends who had adopted through AGCI from China. But they spoke highly of it. And there was some familiarity. And they had heard about it from a woman at our church who runs her own mission organization, and, just kind of well known and respected in that community. And it's like, well, if that's her recommendation, that's why you guys went with them. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm glad to hear that. So fast forwarding a little bit, there's kind of this infamous special needs checklist that as adoptive families are kind of starting on the process that you have to go through. And I know that can be really challenging for a lot of folks as they're looking at that. And like, I don't want to check the wrong, not check something and have that be my child. It's really hard. What were your feelings about that? What were your feelings about special needs, before your adoption journey, and how has that shifted? I'd just love to hear about that experience for you guys.
Yeah. So many thoughts and so many feelings around that, honestly. And I think we both feel for anyone that's, struggling or kind of tackling that now or going to be tackling that, because it's not easy. And it's all the things that you said, like you don't want to eliminate a child that could be your child, but there are words on there that you have never seen before in your life. And we sat with our phones and had to Google the majority of those things. And
it's weird because on some level, it's like, if we were having a biological child, like, you don't get to choose that, like I work with students and I tell them all the time, you get what you get and you don't throw a fit. Right. And it's like with a biological child, that's how it goes. And so it's kind of like, well, should we even get to choose this, and not, not wanting to like play God or whatever. I don't know. Just trying to not overthink it because again, just, we view our son as, fully our child, and just like we would with biological, it would be kind of the same situation.
I think for us, how we managed that was we know, financially what we're capable of handling. And I think one of the things that we knew we couldn't do was for, one of us to stay home full time into perpetuity to take care of a child. That just wouldn't financially be possible for us. Mm-hmm. So looking at it through that lens, I think was very helpful for us to go through that checklist and realistically think about what would work for our family. And also we took into consideration what resources we had in our community too, that could help us should we be matched with a child that did have some of those limitations.
And trying to view it not as we're saying no to a child who might have these needs, because that's hard to think about as well, but more like, okay, a child who has these needs would be better suited with a family who, quite frankly, has more means than us. And one of the parents could stay home full time and care for them forever.
Yeah, absolutely. I know it's so tricky because it's like, as you said, if you're having a biological child, there's no checklist for that. But at the same time, you have to know what your abilities and resources and all of those things are. And that's something we take really seriously. We never want anyone to feel like, we want families to feel prepared to parent the child that they adopt. And we, really believe strongly in that. So, tell me the story. Like when did you see William's picture for the first time? What were your thoughts? Like I want to hear it all. That's such like a life-changing moment.
Oh my gosh. It was like this time last year, which is crazy to think about because it was right around Nick's birthday, which is in a couple weeks. It might have been your birthday weekend, like right before leading up to his birthday when we first got that. And it was, I don't even know. I don't know how to describe it.
After years, literally, of being like, okay, yeah, somewhere down the line, like everyone, once people know you're doing it, that's like an easy conversation topic. Like, oh, how's the adoption going? And it's always like, just
it's still going.
Yeah, filling out papers and doing all this stuff.
Yeah.
If I remember it all correctly, like last summer, we sent everything in our final dossier and all that. And then we got word in August that Colombia had received it.
Mm-hmm.
And
so we thought we had it was going to be like 2 years from then.
Yeah. Cause we heard, anywhere from 3 to 24 months from that point. And then we got a call in October, I believe. Yeah, I think, end of October.
Okay.
Or early November. Somewhere in there. And it was, or maybe
it was a phone call. You're right.
Maybe it was.
How quickly you forget these things. Yeah.
A lot has happened in the last year.
Yeah, oh my gosh, it's been a whirlwind.
Maybe in October, there was some conversation that like something had been approved. Oh yeah, because I guess there's that period where Colombia could be like, ooh, we need this little more info. So we got the word that had all gone through, and that was in October. And then, whoever we were talking with said, so it could be anywhere from couple months to, a year, maybe even 2. And we're like, okay. And then just 3 weeks later, literally, we get the call and she's, I assumed it was some follow-up question. And the way she was like, hey, Nick, do you have a minute? And then I was like, should I get Lisa for this? And, I got her and she said it was a match and we were just like, what?
That's so exciting. It's like your life changes in an instant with a phone call. It's kind of crazy.
It really was. It really was. And it really happened from that moment on. It just, like you said, was a complete whirlwind. It just happened. It happened so quickly. It was such an exciting holiday season last year, just knowing that this was on the horizon. And I think at that point in time, we didn't exactly know when we were traveling, but we knew it was going to be, within the year.
Yeah. 6 or so months from then.
Yeah.
And so it was, all of a sudden it was like, we got to get rooms ready and, and it's a shifting to do there with different bedrooms and a little remodeling and all that stuff. And I was like, oh, all of a sudden it was like, maybe could we get like an extra month? We need a little more time. Like,
we had two little pictures at first, which we printed off. And I know I put one on my, desk at work. And I think Nick did too. We just had these 2 little grainy pictures from goodness knows when that they had of him. But it was fun to show our other kids, our other daughters, the picture of their new brother. And
we did that actually on my birthday.
Yep.
That day was when we showed them, which was cool.
What a birthday present. That's cool.
Yeah. And then
go ahead.
I was going to say it was my 40th last year and Lisa threw a party for me. And that was when we announced it to our kind of broader circle. We had talked with both of our parents by then, but our broader circle of friends and
it's fun.
It was cool.
That's so cool. Did you, when you guys got that call and the pictures and learned about him, was it immediately like, this is our son, or did it take a little bit of time to kind of, absorb this big change?
Yeah, I think Nick, and correct me if I'm wrong, was like immediately, this is our son, no questions asked. This is him. Absolutely, this is part of our family. I tend to be a little bit more cautious, and I know that we had to have the file reviewed by our international pediatrician, and that was really important to me. I wanted to, have them to have the file and read through it and let us know if we're reading everything correctly. A lot of it was in Spanish.
Yeah.
A lot of it was in English, so we could read what we thought, as much as we could, but obviously we knew that they could go more in depth with it. So once we sent that over to them at Cincinnati Children's and they went through it with us, I think I was able to confirm at that point in my heart and my head that, yep, absolutely, this is our child. And we were full speed ahead at that point.
Yeah, the picture, all the phone call was cool, but seeing the photo, like that's, as I don't know, visual people like it. Yeah, that makes it.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, it is now. I mean, it's been a human we're talking about this whole time, and the paperwork and everything like that. But it's this kind of abstract human, and then you see the photo, and it's like, okay, that's
And then we got a little video too of him. We sent a little video, which was cute to see him because it was right around the holidays, and he was kind of toddling around by a Christmas tree. So that definitely sealed the deal then for sure.
And I know this is obviously an auditory experience for everyone, but he is the cutest little boy. He is so adorable. I got to look at some photos before we chatted, and he's precious.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah. Well, I think seeing the picture makes it all real, it's like, oh, this is really, because adoption can be, and everyone's journey is obviously different. And some, there are people who wait 5 years, or people who it happens within a year, if you adopt a waiting child, it really varies, but it can, like you said, it can feel very abstract and like, this is happening, but we're like, right now we're like sending off files and filling out lots of paperwork and all of that. And then to see the photo, to see the video and be like, no, this is real. Yeah. This is our child. That's amazing. Definitely. So I would love to hear about meeting him for the first time and traveling to Colombia. Had you guys been to Colombia before?
We have not. No.
I traveled a lot in Southeast Asia multiple times. But never. South America was uncharted territory for us, which, going back a little bit, that was I remember initially, like somebody we were talking to at All God's Children was like, oh yeah, Colombia. And we're like, Colombia? Like, I mean, okay. It felt kind of random at first until they explained to us, like Lisa was saying, kind of the very child first approach that Colombia has, and the ability to get a younger child because they try and move as quickly as possible to get kids into their forever families.
Yep.
That was, kind of what sparked us more into Colombia. But so we had no history that, I took Spanish in high school and college, but that's about it.
Well, it's a beautiful country. It's wonderful. And the people are like, I don't know. I feel like every time I go there, I'm like, man, everyone is just so full of life, and it's really, really an awesome place.
We loved it. I just absolutely enjoyed our time there. In fact, after, everything had been approved and we had, what was that final piece that he needed to fly? His visa or one last piece of the puzzle that we needed to be able to take him home. And we got that, and we could have flown out on a Friday, and we were like, we'll just stay until Monday and just stay through the weekend just because we just loved it. We loved the country. We stayed in where he was born. We stayed in Bogota, and then we stayed in La Mesa, like a mountain town, and just all three experiences were unique and gorgeous.
Very different.
Like you said, that just the people were so welcoming and kind to us. And I was a little concerned about that because we looked very different. He looked like them. We look very different than everyone there. And during the experience, I was wondering, like, are the Colombians wondering what we're doing, or how do they view this? Is this upsetting to them to see this very American couple with a Colombian child? But they were not at all. And we talked to our interpreter a little bit about it. I shared that concern with our interpreter, and she said, I think they're thinking what a beautiful thing is happening. And I think once I was able to look at it that way, I think I felt much more comfortable with it and just began to realize that, people are smiling at us because they're happy. And they can see that a good thing is happening for this little boy.
Oh, that's awesome. So tell me about the moment though, when you met him. Like, were you guys nervous? It's kind of it's a big deal.
It was.
Yeah. We, I forget how it went exactly, but it was we learned this, a couple months before probably even sooner than that. But whenever we learned this, it was still a surprise to me how early on in the time in Colombia that we would get him. Because, we were in Colombia for 4 weeks and 1 day. So, about a month. And initially I had assumed like there'd be lots of steps we'd have to do in Colombia before meeting him. But, we ended up, the way it works is you get him like day 3, I think it was, maybe day 4. And the day before that is when it was a Zoom call. I don't know if it always is, or that's because we were still coming out of COVID stuff, but with all the, all of his psychologists and social workers and everyone who's been on his case in Colombia, and they kind of fill you in, your translator, fill you in on, just everything about him, from the health issues to like, what does he eat on a daily basis?
Yeah.
And,
how does he sleep?
How does he sleep? Yeah. And so that, that was cool. Kind of like the preparation the day before. And then I remember that evening we went out to dinner, and then it was like, tomorrow everything changes. And the approach they do. And I don't know, obviously we just have this one experience, but the way they did it in Colombia, at least for that group, is make it like kind of like a birthday party. And it was like a birthday party vibe, and it was at our hotel room. And again, that may have been a change. One of those things that like changed with COVID, but then it's kind of sticking. Then instead of meeting him like in some neutral place, they bring him to our hotel room. So like we got balloons
and a cake and had music playing for him. And we had brought a few toys for him to play with, some new toys. And I think his 2 social workers, carried him in and brought him to our room. And I think it was beautiful and overwhelming for, for all of us, for him. I'm sure he was like, what is happening? But, we just brought him in and were able to sit down with him and, bounce a ball with him and play with him. And I don't know, I think they maybe stayed for like a half hour or so. Same with our interpreter. And then, they left, and it was just the 3 of us. And we're like, what do we do now?
I think it was like every parent when they go home with their baby.
Right? Our bathing suits on.
It's like I had to keep reminding myself of all the paperwork we'd done. Like, they're not just leaving this baby with strangers. Like, this is the years of background checks and FBI prints and all that. Like, because at the moment, they're just like they were there, but they didn't, ask us all these questions. They were just kind of like, okay, looks good.
Yep.
Bye. We'll see you again in, 7 days.
And I will share too, and I don't know if this will be helpful for other, newly adopted moms, or maybe this is just a weird experience that I had. But that evening, when we went to bed, I don't know if you remember this, but it must have just been an emotional release, but I just cried and cried and cried and cried. And I wasn't sad, and it was just an absolute realization that, everything had changed in the blink of an eye. There's a new member of our family, and he's here. At that point, we would let him fall asleep in the bed with us, and then we would move him to his little crib, but he was I'm just like, this little baby is here, and we're here in a different country. And it was just a big, I think, emotional rush and emotional release for me. And sorry, I'm here, our dog trying to scrape at our door here.
All good.
Yeah. So it passed, and the next morning we got up and had breakfast. But yeah, it was definitely an emotional day. All sorts of emotions. I'll be the first to admit I'm a relatively easy crier, especially for when we die, whatever.
I expected that we would both be like crying when we got him. I don't know if like it was because of like the social workers. I mean, I'll be honest, it is a rather awkward situation because you're like, you're playing with this kid who is like technically your son, but like you just met him. So let's be honest, you're playing with a little stranger kid, and you have these like 2 people who are like watching you. And then our interpreter was awesome. She took photos and videoed for us and did a great job of like capturing it. But at the same time, it's like, what? Hi, little kid. Like, what do we do? And, you don't want to do like, you don't want to hug too much or too little. And, So I don't know if that was why, but yeah, we didn't have any tears at the moment. But then, yeah, like you said, maybe it built up throughout that night. And yeah, for me, I don't know, it's just like something switched in my mind. I have 2 daughters from my first marriage. And so they're now, at the time they were 10 and 13, now 11 and 14. And so, it had been a few years, but like, I feel like as soon as I saw them, it was kind of just like, oh yeah, here we go. Another one of these, like it, just switched into dad mode. And,
which was helpful for me because I had no idea what I was doing. I have nieces and nephews, but that was the closest that I had ever come to it. I don't think I'd ever changed a diaper before.
So you really got thrown in.
I was looking at this guy like, oh, what do we do? But yeah, it was definitely an exciting and fun and all, emotional roller coaster day, month, week. Sometimes it still is. So
yeah, absolutely. Well, that is completely normal. I think sometimes people, there's such a buildup, right? Like, it's like, okay, this is happening, years thinking about it, all these things. And then it's like, it happens. And I think that's very normal, like you said, to have this kind of like emotional release of like, okay, no, this is our child. He's really here.
Yeah.
And not that it's sad, but it's just like, you kind of can, it's almost like when you're able to let your shoulder like relax a little bit, like it's like, okay, he's in our arms. It's going to be okay. It's going to be hard, but whatever we come up against, like we'll figure it out. So
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So how has the transition been? You said, so you have 2, he now has 2 older sisters. How has that been?
Oh, that honestly could not, our experiences, could not have gone better or more smoothly.
Yeah. They love him. He loves them. The younger one is just very nurturing. Like she's 11 now, but wants to be a teacher, just very much like he's her little like alive play doll, yeah. The older one is not any of those things. She's, I love her dearly, but she can be somewhat standoffish and just kind of like, one word answers.
14.
Right. 14.
Yeah. Oh, well, yeah. Hey, who isn't at 14?
Yeah.
But like, it's been so cool and such a pleasant surprise to see, like, it's brought out this whole other side of her. And yeah, just seeing their interaction and that aspect has been great. And, there's lots of challenges with them being, for my first marriage, and they're only with us about a third of the time,
okay,
which stinks in lots of ways. And there's been all sorts of stuff with that. But a kind of benefit is that he doesn't he has a novelty every time they're with us. They're with us like about a third of the time. So the weekends they're with us and stuff. They're anxious to see him. They're not like, oh, get out of my room already.
Yeah, sure. Normal.
If he accidentally breaks something, it's not that big of a deal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Whereas if it was day in and day out, they probably
totally
been starting to get a little annoyed with him by now or something like that. So.
Oh yeah, siblings. It's
little brother.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh well, what a blessing! I'm so glad to hear that. So I know this all just happened not that long ago, but just thinking back, like, from the very beginning up until now, like, what has the biggest challenge been in your journey?
From the initial process, or from when we, brought William home?
Either or both.
Well,
whatever sticks out in your mind.
The process of the paperwork and the fingerprints was, I wouldn't say challenging, but man, that was a long.
Just a lot, and like how, what the order, and I don't know, just a little overwhelming at first.
Sure.
Like lots of things. Once you break it down, once you start making progress, like it wasn't that bad. Just a long process.
It was awesome when we were able to send that whole thing away and be like, we did this, and now it's going off.
Yeah.
I think our challenge once we brought him home is just, it's, and not in a bad way, but it didn't necessarily go the way I think we had planned it to. Meaning, when we first, brought him home, our plan was, I was working from home until Nick works in a school, until he was off for the summer break. And then I was going to go back full time, and we were going to put William into daycare in August when he went back to school this past August. And I think just being with William and my time with him, I think we both just decided it just wasn't time to now put him into daycare in August. It just didn't seem like the right fit for our family. Yeah. So we had to think what we needed to do as a family so one of us could stay home with him until, next year, or till we feel like we're ready to put him into a care situation. And that ended up being me. And I transitioned to working part-time, basically in the evening, so I can be home with William during the day. 100% the best decision that we possibly could have made for, I think, our family and for William. But it was challenging, it was definitely something that we didn't enter into lightly. I really loved my job and my career. And it was definitely something that I had to weigh, like, am I ready to give this up now? But again, like we said, there was absolutely no looking back, and it's definitely the best decision that we could have made. But, you go into something with a plan and you're like, you've thought about it and you've prayed about it and you think you have this all set out. And then you bring this little person home and you're like, well, maybe that's not how we planned it, isn't the way that it's going to go. And it's just kind of reframing what that, I hate to say this, but that new normal is going to look like for your family. And just kind of adjusting. And I think we're still even, and I certainly am still kind of adjusting to what that looks like day in and day out. But again, I think we're both would agree that it's the best decision that we could have made.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Well, I think that's, one of the challenging things about, and for you, Lisa, like becoming a parent for the first time, you have all these plans and ideas of like how it's going to go and how you're going to do it. And then it's like your kid comes in and they're like, nope, that's not how this is going to work.
Right.
And it all works out the way it's supposed to and ends up being great, but it's so hard. And I think especially, when you have a career that you love and to have to like figure out the balance of that, like that's such a challenge. I think especially for, moms. Yeah. Well, thank you for sharing that. Is there anything that has surprised you?
Every day we're surprised.
Every day.
by something new. I think the biggest thing for us from the onset, so like during the process, I think, and I'll take it back to like when we were even considering this, we were looking at the price tag and we're like, we don't have that to just, do this and write the check and be done with it. We've got, 2 other kids to think about and a dog and a mortgage and car, so, but I think we just felt like we're going to do this and we're just going to be open to however God's going to figure it out for us. And when we looked at it, on paper, we're like, this doesn't make sense. Like this is probably
the numbers, you see that breakdown of the constants, like, I don't know, 36,000 or something like that. And we're like, we have about maybe 10.
This probably isn't going to work for us. So, we kind of pushed all of our resources and everything that we had saved to put towards it. And then we were just like, well, God, we're excited to see how you're going to work this out for us. And to say that it was jaw-dropping, just the way and people always say that, and I don't know how else to explain it other than like, it was truly incredible and amazing. And people that Nick went to high school with 20 years ago, giving him a call and saying, I saw this on Facebook that you're doing this and I want to contribute a substantial amount, just incredible. Wow. Incredible things happened to line this up financially.
Our church was hugely supportive, and they actually have a program called Grafted that works, to encourage adoption, and they, were just very, very generous. And then we had friends who, like, this was kind of a funny story. We had a couple friends who we hadn't even talked with we talked with our parents, but not like our siblings or anything, but like they didn't even know we were adopting. But we had dinner with some friends and stuff, and, it did come out. And then like a couple days later, they sent us this link. They'd set up a GoFundMe for us.
Wow.
And like sent it out to like all their relatives who, none of these people knew us, and they raised like, I don't know, $3,000 or $4,000 for us.
Wow.
Which we were like,
wow,
Oh, wow.
we should tell our family.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah. But yeah, that I think just that was super surprising. It shouldn't have been. Like, we should have been like, of course God's going to come through and figure this out for us. But I think just to see it like tangibly happen before your eyes was just incredible. And I think it also gave us, when, you know, things were challenging, and even now when things are challenging and we're looking at it like, or I'm looking at it like, holy cow, like, what's going on here? I think finding comfort in that, like, this is supposed to happen. Otherwise it wouldn't have, you know, like these things were all set up in place specifically for this child to be here at this time with us. It's encouraging. And I think initially just really shocking and surprising, happy, shocking and surprising for sure.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. We always joke that we wish we could just put that on our website. Like, don't worry about the finances. It will all come together. We promise. We obviously cannot say that, but I cannot tell you. I mean, I have been, you know, I've had the privilege of getting to talk to adoptive families for, over 8 years now. And pretty much every single family I talk to has a story like that, of that. Because it's very overwhelming when you look at the numbers, and most people can't just write a check for that amount. And, you know, disclaimer, you don't have to write a check for that amount. It is a process. It's over a period of time. But it's just amazing to see the provision that does happen when you just say yes and step out in faith and just follow where you're led. And it is scary, and not to take away from the fact that it is scary to look at the numbers and to look at your, you know, bank account and be like, I don't see how this is happening, but it does. And I have heard that so many times. And so if you are listening to this and that is the reason why you are not adopting, don't let that be the reason why you're not adopting. It will come together, and you'll be amazed by the people in your life that, you know, adoption isn't for everyone. And that's okay, but everyone can help make adoption possible. And so I think people feel also sometimes like they don't want to ask for help. They don't want to like put that out and put pressure on someone, but people want to help. People want to help you. Really, they want to be part of your child's story. And that's something that everyone can do. And, you know, whether that's $5 or $1,000 or whatever, or even just, you know, praying and coming alongside people in that way, give people the chance to be a part of it. Give people the chance to help.
And like you said, I think people are excited too. And you know, had Nick alluded to, just even people that we didn't know, that we had never met before, I was inspired by it. Like, I was like, holy cow, I should be, you know, giving more to potentially adoptive families and seeking out opportunities to support adoptive families too. It really is inspiring. And I would definitely, in fact, I'll say some prayers tonight for some people that are considering it and are worried about the financial aspect of it, because it really does. It's really inspiring and encouraging to see how it does fall into place.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, to end, do you guys have any encouragement for, I mean, I feel like that was encouragement in itself, but any other encouragement or wisdom for families who are, you know, maybe on the fence? They're just considering adoption, trying to decide if it's part of the plan for their life. What would you guys say?
That's a good question.
Yeah, I mean, that would definitely be the hugest one. Just the provision, you know, we like Lisa said, we were never stressed about it. And like, you know, comparatively speaking, I think we did kind of have the like, well, make it happen, you know, okay, God, like make it happen. And I think that helped. And so, yeah, I guess just to not stress about that aspect of it, you know, obviously be wise and diligent, blah, blah, blah. But yeah, not to stress about that aspect of it.
I don't mean to cut you off. I think too, you know, we're called to take care of widows and orphans, right? Like, that's clearly stated in the Bible. And I think we read, you know, multiple books about adoption and just really felt that's what we're supposed to do in some capacity. And like you know, alluded to, not everyone should be adopting or needs to adopt, or but I think if you feel that tug, it's probably there for a reason. And I would say to explore it, read the literature that you can. You can't go wrong supporting an orphan in some way, right? Like you can't, whether it's financially supporting another family or pursuing it yourself, no matter what, you're doing the right thing because that's what we're supposed to be doing. So I think reading some literature about it and definitely obviously talking to your partner about it a lot and praying about it, you can't go wrong. You'll obviously see returns on that investment no matter what.
Awesome. And and then I would add to it just the joy that he has been, having this little guy. And for me, just purely like selfishly looking at it, but like for me with my daughters having gotten older and, like as a parent, everyone's kind of like, oh, especially as they enter teenage years, like, remember when they were so cute and little and, oh, if I could go back and, all the little cute outfits and all that stuff. And it's like, I get to do all that again, and I know obviously lots of people are in lots of different stages, but anyone who, who has older children and is like, oh my gosh, do I really want to get back into the diaper stage, or, whatever, like thing.
There's lots of diapers.
There are lots of diapers. Yeah. But it's kind of like, for me, it's just, it's been fun because it's like parenthood 2.0, like I get to do this again and, relive a lot of that. And that's been just a cool aspect for me.
And I think one other thing that I would add for folks who are, heading to their country to meet their child for their first time, my big encouragement would be to enjoy your time in country and just, when we first got there and we had William, I think that very next day we're like, okay, let's speed this process up. Let's go home. I think we both really just wanted to get home with him, but we realized that that's not going to happen. There's still a lot of paperwork that needs to happen in country. And I think once we did that and we said to ourselves, like, when are we going to be off work for a month together again, where we in another country, we're probably not going to have that experience again. So we just need to take a step back and enjoy it. Yeah. And I think once we put that, we had that frame of mind, we thoroughly enjoyed our time in country.
It did take a very conscious mind shift. Yeah. Cause like Lisa said about day 2 having him, we were like, all right, cool.
Let's get on with it. Yeah. But I think just being in country and experiencing another culture and meeting new people and, learning more about our son's culture and soaking that all in so we can
knowing that like we will forever have a tie to this culture through him and soaking that in as much as we could.
Taking all the pictures that we could so we could show him, different places we visited when we were there with him and showing him his hometown. We definitely plan to go back again, hopefully sooner rather than later. Maybe when he's a little bit older and can kind of understand it a little bit more. Yeah. But I think my advice or encouragement would be just try to relax and just enjoy that time in country and do some exploring and obviously even though, prepare yourself. But
and like the reality, like living out of a hotel is hard and it got old at times. But don't rush that because then you get home and all of a sudden work comes and family and all that, and all of a sudden things are so busy and like, oh my gosh, the yard, because we've been gone for a month and, things like that. So like enjoy, just soak in that time.
Yeah. You're kind of in a little,
that's a once in a lifetime experience
for us it is. Yeah.
Unless you adopt multiple times.
Until you adopt again. Yes.
Yeah.
No. Yeah, absolutely. No, you're kind of in that little bubble. And I mean, I think, with anything, it's like, okay, let's get our life started again. Let's go. But it's like, you kind of have this, once in a lifetime experience to pause and for you two to be together and just with him and in his birth country. And then also think about when he's older to be able to be like, you have an understanding now that you wouldn't have had of his heritage. And that's invaluable.
Exactly.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys so much. It was such a joy to talk to you, to hear your beautiful story. And I know this is going to be such an incredible encouragement for so many families. So thank you so much for taking the time to chat with me today.
Thank you for having us.
Our pleasure.
Definitely.
That was AGCI adoptive parents Nick and Lisa. Thanks for listening to Together by AGCI. As always, if you liked what you heard, please rate or review us wherever you listen to podcasts. If you'd like to read or watch even more stories, check out our website, allgodschildren.org. Reach out to us and let us know what you think on Instagram at All God's Children International or email us at together@allgodschildren.org. We look forward to sharing another story of hope the next time we're together. We'll talk to you soon.